Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. My name is Sarah, and today we have a pretty awesome sequel to talk about. The Stainless Steel Rat's Revenge by Harry Harrison. This is book 2 out of 13 in the Stainless Steel Rat series. I've already reviewed the original one. As you can probably tell by that, and the fact that there are 3 books in this one binding, these are pretty short stories, so I'm just going to cover basically everything that happened as best as I can, without going into too much spoilers, but I would read the book before reading this. Just to recap what happened in the last book, Slippery Jim, this notorious criminal, the Stainless Steel Rat, he is captured and starts working for the Special Corps, criminals catching other criminals for this government. And on the way, he meets Angeline. Originally, Angeline was the antagonist in the first book, but by the second book, they end up fixing her madness. She's still insane, but she's a workable insane now. Now, Angeline and Jim in this book are married, and the book opens up with them on their honeymoon. Well, honeymoon. They've been married for a while, but this is the first time they can get away. Angeline is actually pregnant with twins at the time of the story. During their honeymoon, it's actually just a giant crime spree. And the Corp allows it because they're going to come back and they're going to work for them, and they're not going to do this again. So after their crime spree, they go back to their Corp. They go back to their organization, and they have a job waiting for Jim. Angeline is not allowed to go on this because pregnant with twins, and by the time Jim gets back, she's going to be, in labor or already have a child by then. So the job they have lined up for Jim is actually another espionage one. Jim is apparently amazing at sneaking into places, being someone else. It's what he's known for, and it's probably the best in this organization at the time. Jim has to infiltrate this planet, and apparently there's rumors and enough confirmation to go down that this planet has somehow managed not only to invade, but conquer fellow planets in its solar system. That's something that can't be done in this universe because of not only the union between the planets, but also the protection that each one of them has. So Jim has to go in there. But he can't do it as Jim. He has to go in and be someone else. He pretends to be a weapons salesman at the beginning of the book. Naturally, they take away all his weapons, but he's allowed to enter the planet. From there, he has disguise for his disguise and pretends to be an Air Force pilot. He starts to work for the Air Force on this planet to figure out what is going on. What is this planet doing and how are they getting to conquer these other planets in the solar system? Something that shouldn't be possible. Along the way, he meets some other characters. There's not much dialogue in this book, so there's fairly limited development for these characters that are just thrown in just for this book, but some of them I do find quite nice to read about, even if it's just what they're doing and their emotions, and possibly some summaries of their conversation. Again, there's not much dialogue, so you don't really get a good feeling on who these characters are, but it is written first person, so you get Jim's perspective on everything. Now that Jim is in the Air Force, now that he's training, now that he is getting to where he needs to be, he realizes how little he knows. Somebody really important walks up to him, and he has no idea who that is. And the minute they realize that Jim doesn't know who this person is, they start to put some things together. It's nothing confirmed, but they know something's up. They know maybe this guy isn't who he thinks he is. That causes Jim to go deeper. He has to figure out how to get what he needs to get, how they are doing what they're doing without letting the people know that he's a spy, that he's there for the corpse. It's not too long after that, however, that it's time for another invasion. These planets that they go to, Jim realizes that they aren't the ones that are taking these planets down. This organization that he works for, that he's pretending to work for, they're picking planets that have already fallen apart. Their government is unstable. There's not enough food to go around. These air forces, these military men, just go in and finish off the job. They conquer planets that have already been conquered. While they're there, that's when things start to get interesting. Jim is very against hurting the innocent. He has a sort of Robin Hood attribute about him. He only steals from those who can be afforded to be stolen from. And what these people are doing is that they're hurting those who can't afford to be hurt anymore. So he kind of goes off on his own. He tries to save some civilians. He tries to help people. He gets caught. he gets caught telling these people that he isn't working for this government, that he's actually a spy. And they drag him away. They end up taking Jim to this prison that is the most secure that this planet has to offer. Everything there is designed to keep people like him in. You see, they don't just want Jim to be punished. They want Jim to work for them willingly. And in order to do that, they gotta do some psychological warfare. These people are capable of pulling things out that really shouldn't happen. They have mind manipulation, hypnotism. They can implant false memories in their prisoners and make them think things that aren't true. Jim is giving a false memory of his hand being cut off, and then when he wakes up, his hand is still there. And it's this kind of torture and agony that he has to go through. He loses track of time. He doesn't know how long he's there. Eventually, though, he starts to figure things out. He starts to realize what is going on, and he tries to work his way out. And he actually gets fairly successful at this. But he still requires some help. You see, Jim has been in this prison for so long. Angeline has not only had her 2 kids, but she's recovered, and now she's off to save him. She teamed up with some of the citizens that Jim tried to save, and together they break Jim out of the prison. And along the way, they realize something. They're these gray men that aren't part of this planet, aren't part of the invading planet. They're just there. And I believe it's going to set up for the rest of the series because there are 13 books in this series. And hopefully that will carry out because each of these books are fairly short and the foreshadowing in it has to be fairly slow. Smoking guns are going to be what carries through the rest of the series, I believe. But for now, you definitely get the feeling that something is going on. So Jim escapes, but not before pulling the trigger on someone. He manages to get rid of this head officer. He manages to get rid of the guy in charge, and he hopes that that will end the invasions. He can't do much more because he's been spotted. He's known. Everyone knows about him and what he does. They'll be on the lookout for more spies and more people like him and where he's from. So we can only hope. He gives the invading planets what they need, and then he gives the citizens what they deserve. And in the end, they follow through and they go back to the corp. They go back to where they belong and they finish up their adventure. Like I said, fairly short book, only about 120 pages, so not much to go over. I did really enjoy this, but I liked the first one better. It doesn't feel like a sequel, but it does feel like a follow-up to a previous novel, and I get it, that's what it is. But these books, I was told, can stand alone. You can read them in any order, but at the same time, I feel like you need to read the first one first. Overall, I give this book a 10 out of 13. I don't know, maybe I'm biased, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm judging it harsher than I should. Read this book yourself. I do really enjoy it. And I know it's going to be hard to find the rest of the physical copies for this book because they're fairly old. This I had to get from a hand-me-down bookstore, and that in itself was impossible to find. But I'm going to try, and I'm going to continue reading these. Thank you so much for watching my review. If you have any suggestions on what you want me to read next, either like that book or completely out of left field, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.